coming on the air with the search for survivors right now in Taiwan. The strongest earthquake in decades, killing at least 9 people. Look at this, more than 1,000 others hurt. And as we speak, dozens stuck in this mine, trapped because of all the damage. We're live with reaction from people who saw this themselves and what happens from here. We'll also show you some shocking video out of Africa. An elephant charging a truck full of American tourists. One person now dead. The new details we're learning tonight about the victim. Then, could one electoral vote swing the race for the White House? Republicans in Nebraska think so, why they're pushing to change how the state does presidential elections to maybe help Donald Trump. Plus, the new culture war clash between the most controversial coach in women's basketball and the governor of Louisiana, why it's all got to do with the national anthem. And is J-Lo entering her era's era? Why some in the music business think she's shaken up her tour to focus on her greatest hits a little bit later on in the show. Hey there, I'm Hallie, and tonight we start with the race against time in a desperate search happening in Taiwan for the dozens of people missing after the island was hit with the strongest earthquake it's seen in 25 years. We got to show you this. This is some CCTV footage. Look, the moment that a building collapses onto a busy street. Look at this. People are running for their lives out of their cars. They're trying to get away. You've got buildings that didn't collapse, like this one, leaning at that angle. Who knows how long it'll last, at least somewhat upright there. And then there's the rooftop swimming pool, literally turning into a waterfall. Look at that, as the earthquake was shaking the ground underneath this building. I want to show you where it hit. A magnitude 7.4 off the coast of Taiwan. The strongest there since 1999. You saw tsunami warnings triggered in Taiwan, Japan, the Philippines. They've all since been lifted. But here's what we know right now. 9 people are dead. That number may go up in the next few days. More than 1,000 people are hurt. Taiwan, listen, it gets hit with earthquakes fairly regularly. They're among some of the best prepared people. The island is very well prepared for them. But right now, you've got crews still out trying to help 71 people, roughly, trapped in mines and quarries because of all the damage here, according to officials today. Americans in Taiwan, when this all happened, tell NBC News what it was like in the first moments that they felt this earthquake. Listen.
I was in bed. I was probably about 15 minutes from getting up to go to work, and suddenly, my whole house started shaking.
I felt a lot of earthquakes, but this was by far the strongest and the most frightening.
Megan Fitzgerald is joining us now. We can see how strong and how frightening it's been from some of the video we're getting from Taiwan. Talk us through how the search and rescue is going and what happens from here.
Well, look, this is an ongoing effort right now. We know with crews on the ground, digging through the rubble, digging through debris, trying to get to those people who are trapped beneath. According to officials, we know that more than 140 people are trapped. We know that the majority of them are tourists or in a hotel. We also know that 71 of that number are also in a ravine. So, look, this is a round-the-clock maneuver that crews are working right now. They're getting support from neighboring communities that are bringing in search and rescue dogs, vehicles, everything that they need to try and work through the rubble to try and get these people. I mean, you saw the video, which is just quite jarring. You see these buildings that are collapsed at the base, but then they're leaning just about to tip over onto another building. So certainly a very sensitive, ongoing process as crews try and work quickly but carefully to try and rescue these folks trapped beneath. Hallie?
We talked about how Taiwan is sort of unique in the preparation for earthquakes because they see so many. Yeah. Obviously, this one is on a scale and a magnitude that they have not seen in decades, really in a generation, Megan. That's a factor, too.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And, when you think of the number 7.4, it's a massive number, but you're not quite seeing the destruction that you might expect, right? A similar situation of what we saw in Japan on New Year's Day, a massive quake, but not the damage that you would expect. You see rows of homes that are still standing. Every now and then you'll see a home that's not. I mean, the reason is because we're talking about an earthquake-prone region. So Taiwan's readiness is incredibly advanced. They have strict building codes. There's routine drills that go on. So the country is as prepared as they can be structurally. But an American living in Taiwan had a different take on the alerts that went on. I want you to listen to a little bit of what she had to say.
Well, the first warning was the actual shaking. And midway through the earthquake, alerts started going off on our phone. There is an automated earthquake alert system that goes out here, but it was not early enough to, give any kind of advance warning.
And Hallie, while this is still an incredibly serious and deadly situation, experts say had Taiwan not have been as prepared, this certainly could have been a lot worse.
Megan Fitzgerald watching all of it for us tonight. The image is just really scary coming out of there. I know you're going to keep us posted on the search and rescue efforts, too, throughout the night. Thanks. In just the last few minutes, we've got some developing news here at home. We've learned that 2 people have been transported to a Tampa medical facility after a Southwest flight headed to Orlando hit really bad turbulence. It was forced to make an emergency landing. It happened today, right as this area was getting hit with severe weather. It's under tornado watches. All of it part of this multi-day deadly storm system ripping across the country, putting millions of people under all kinds of weather alerts, from really intense winds to really bad flooding to some snow, some hail. Even now in April, hundreds of thousands of people are in the dark. They don't have power. And right around Richmond, Virginia, keep an eye if you live near there or know people who do. There's a tornado watch in place as we speak. We're just starting to get a sense of the damage after more than a dozen reported tornadoes ripped through 6 states. Look at this. Look at that tree on a roof. That's one of so many similar scenes in that region. Look at Louisville, Kentucky, where this storm system turned deadly. We know a 19-year-old was killed in a crash. And one of the big concerns now, a ton of rain, right? Creating flooding now. Look at this car practically underwater. There's the winter side of this storm, too. If it's not rain, it is snow just dumping on the Great Lakes in New England. You've got those intense winds, so blizzard-like conditions even now as we've turned the corner into spring. Meteorologist Michelle Grossman is standing by with the forecast, but I want to start with Emily Aketa on the ground in New Jersey. It is sloppy. It is messy where you are. Talk us through where some of the concerns are.
Yeah, absolutely, Hallie. Good to be with you. You can see one of the dangers right now is visibility, and to what degree. Just simply behind me, we're standing along the Hudson River. On the other side, that's the New York City skyline, completely obscured by the elements. The other thing you're seeing right now is this wintry mix that has been coming down at times really hard. Parts of the Northeast could see up to 4 inches of rain alone today, an incredible pace that is raising concerns for flash flooding, especially for communities that are along rivers. In nearby Paterson, New Jersey, they have rescue boats at the ready. They have barricades to shut down certain roadways should they be flooded at the ready. We've actually been to that community multiple times this year because it hasn't just been a wet week, but a wet year. Here's more from the mayor. Take a listen.
Quite frankly, we've never seen a year like this. 4 months in and just constant rain. I feel badly for residents that live in those low-lying areas that are prone to flooding. My heart goes out to them, and we're doing the best that we can to mitigate the impact.
So we've got this wintry mix. We've got wind gusts topping 60 miles an hour, especially in coastal communities. It is a dangerous deluge for so many people in the Northeast region, and it is made for quite a travel nightmare. Looking at flight cancellations across the country right now, more than 600. There are more than 5,000 flights delayed. Another number we're tracking is the number of power outages. Hundreds of thousands of people are in the dark, in the frigid temperatures right now, not just from today's storm, but the system that also already carved out a path of destruction from the Ohio Valley down into the southeast over the last couple of days. More than a dozen tornadoes have been reported, possible tornadoes throughout the region. As you mentioned, it led to at least 1 death, tragically a young man in Kentucky. We know several people were injured outside of Atlanta in severe weather there. And this is just the beginning of what continues to be a wild week of weather as the Northeast braces for more rainfall, for more flooding in parts of New England, even a wintry blast. Hallie?
Emily Aketa, thank you very much. I want to bring in meteorologist Michelle Grossman. Okay, so 2 things, right? Talk us through what happened in Florida where that plane hit that turbulence, forced to land, make that emergency landing, and then where the real sort of hot spot is as we speak for tornadoes.
Yeah, so we have a slew of problems at the airports. That was going to be the biggest issue. Will continue to be the biggest issue as we go throughout the next couple of hours. We have wind shear out there, so it's just rotating winds coming from different directions. I sort of explained to my kids, like, you're riding a bike, your pedals kind of hit, and you twist. So when you're up high in the sky, you're getting these pockets, and then we're getting that turbulence, and we're seeing that low visibility as well as we saw in Emily's shot. So we're going to continue to see some rough skies. Now, as we talk about tonight, last night I know we had so many tornado warnings we were talking about. It was a rough night last night. I think we're up to 16 tornado reports. Tonight we're a little calmer. Just about 20 minutes ago from your neck of the woods, we had 4 tornado warnings. They have since expired, which is good news, and it's an indication of what's to come. The atmosphere is starting to calm down in terms of the severe weather. That cold front is now moving off the coast. It's right around here. So Florida, you're going to be out of the woods soon. We had a tornado watch box that was up until 5 that has since expired. Now we have one left in portions of North Carolina, into Virginia, into Maryland, also parts of the Delmarva, and into New Jersey. But notice all these orange boxes here. They're not tornado warnings, but they're severe thunderstorm warnings. Still something where you want to take safety, you want to use caution as you're out and about, because we're looking at really gusty winds. Winds are going to be a problem as we go throughout the next couple of hours, at least through tomorrow as well. Any of these storms could see winds of 60 miles per hour. We could see some hail as well. This is a large system. We've been talking about it for days. We're going to continue to talk about it through Friday. Now, notice on the backside, we have a couple things happening here. We have an upper area of low pressure joining with a low pressure off the coast. They're joining forces. They're creating power. So we see this snow on the back end. And we have a lot of snow in portions of the Great Lakes, in UP and Michigan. But also, we're going to be talking about feet of snow in parts of New England as we go throughout today, tomorrow. Blizzard-like conditions in many spots in New England. So talking about tonight, still 10 million people at risk. That's a lot in the Carolinas, into portions of Florida still. We're not out of the woods. Things are improving, but we still could see an isolated tornado or two. Strong storms over the next couple of hours. I think by 8 o'clock tonight, we'll be out of the woods for the most part. Still could see some hail. Still could see a few tornadoes, winds gusting up to 60 miles per hour. And this is going to be a problem. We're really saturated in portions of the Northeast, so we're looking at the chance for some flood warnings and watches. Flood watch, that is in the green. That means we're looking out for the chance of flooding. As we look towards the red, that is a flash flood warning, meaning flooding is happening now or it's imminent. We're talking about Pittsburgh, Elkins, into Philadelphia as well. We are so saturated. I live in Bucks County, and I can tell you that my backyard has been wet for days and days, right? Soaked. So we're going to see anywhere up to 3, even 4 inches of rain in some spots. As we saw where Emily was, we're seeing a lot of rain still coming down. And then we'll end it here because winds will be a problem. We have lots of reports of power outages. 61 million people even back throughout portions of the Midwest where we could see additional power outages. We're going to see trees coming down, and this is going to create some problems in the sky as well.
Michelle, there's a lot to follow. There's a lot to watch. We're glad you're here. We'll check back in next hour, too. Thank you. To some other news tonight, because tonight, Texas's controversial immigration law is now in the hands of a federal appeals court. After the latest hearing over the law maybe sets up this full circle moment and a final showdown at the Supreme Court. I say full circle because of how we got here, right? First, blocked by a federal judge, appealed to this circuit court. Then the Supreme Court looked at it for like a hot second, threw it back to the appeals circuit where it stands now. Bottom line, this panel of judges has to decide whether or not this law is constitutional while it stays on hold. The Biden administration says, no, it's not. That's their argument, right? Pointing to what they say is 150 years of precedent. They say, hey, immigration, that's the Fed's job. That's not the state's. That is for only the federal government to be able to handle. The state, obviously Texas, argues something very different. We've been covering the law every step of the way since it passed last year, right? This would let state and local law enforcement in Texas detain, even deport undocumented migrants as they see fit. NBC's Julia Ainsley is following this one for us. All right, so here we are again, a little bit of deja vu. What's the timeline on a ruling and what happens from here?
Feels like deja vu, Hallie, but it's still really important to follow this one, especially today, because the appeals court is now finally hearing arguments about the constitutionality of the law. Before, all that back and forth was about whether or not it could immediately go into effect or needed to be temporarily put on hold. This is about whether or not it will stick. And you can bet that no matter who wins, the loser will appeal to the Supreme Court. They'll have the ultimate decision. But something really surprising happened today, and that the Texas Solicitor General said that there may be a different way they could enforce this law, where rather than deporting migrants back to Mexico, they could actually hand them back over to Customs and Border Protection at a port of entry, so still on U.S. territory, and then allow them to process them as usual. That was really unusual. Judges weren't sure what to do with that. The Justice Department wasn't sure what to do with that. Let me just play you a clip of what the Texas Solicitor General said when he said Texas might be going too far. Take a listen.
What Texas has done here is they have looked at the Supreme Court's precedent, and they have tried to develop a statute that goes up to the line of Supreme Court precedent, but allows Texas to protect the border. Now, to be fair, maybe Texas went too far, and that's the question this court's going to have to decide.
So now it'll be up to the judges to look back at previous precedent and decide if what Texas said today is something that can stand and in their mind would be constitutional, Hallie.
What about across the border, right? Because the country on the other side of this, literally on the other side of the border in Mexico, have been very vocal about opposition to the law, right? So what happens if Texas does start deporting people back across the southern border? Diplomatic crisis at that point or what?
Yeah, I mean, Mexico has come out and said that they will not accept migrants that are deported by the state of Texas, that they do their negotiations with the United States as a sovereign country, not individual states. And I think that's one of the reasons why we saw Texas argue what they did today, Hallie, where they're saying, okay, maybe we won't actually take these migrants back into Mexico, especially if they're not Mexican nationals. Maybe we'll just take them right up to the edge of the border and hand them over to Customs and Border Protection, and they can decide what to do with them. So I think part of that resistance from Mexico and a lot of the questions they've been getting from the judges about how exactly this is going to work is actually making Texas in real time start to change the way their law would even work, Hallie.
Julia Ainsley, it's fascinating stuff. Thanks for being all over it yet again for us tonight. Appreciate it. Elsewhere, you've got U.S. officials telling NBC News tonight President Biden is expected to speak with the Israeli Prime Minister tomorrow. This could potentially be a big deal. Why? It would be their first call since that Israeli airstrike that killed 7 humanitarian aid workers in Gaza. Remember those workers for the World Central Kitchen run by celebrity chef Jose Andres? Now, World Central Kitchen is revealing some new details about what happened 2 days before the deadly attack. The nonprofit saying they think an Israeli sniper opened fire on one of their trucks in central Gaza back on Saturday. Remember, some 48 hours before the deadly strike even happened, which raises some new questions about what exactly the Israeli military is doing from a precautionary perspective to make sure that aid workers and that civilians in Gaza are safe. An IDF spokesperson, in other words, a spokesperson for the Israeli military, says they've opened an investigation into that attack on Monday that killed those 7 people, calling the airstrike a mistake.
It is a very complex situation and a complex reality on the ground, and we need to make sure that the humanitarian organizations can operate in safety while we make sure that Hamas does not commandeer goods. This is the reality that we are facing.
Raf Sanchez is joining us now, live now from Tel Aviv. So, Raf, can we start by looking ahead to this phone call tomorrow between the president and the Prime Minister of Israel? Significant anytime the two have a conversation, but at this moment, it feels like there is a lot riding on this conversation, and specifically its tone and its message from the U.S.
Absolutely, Hallie. The last time President Biden spoke to Israeli Prime Minister, March 18th, and a lot has happened since then. The killing of these 7 World Central Kitchen aid workers, including an American citizen, 33-year-old Jacob Flickinger. Also, since that last call between the two leaders, the U.S. allowing that UN Security Council resolution to pass, calling for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. It also called for the immediate and unconditional release of the hostages. But the Israelis absolutely furious that this resolution did not explicitly link the two of them. So this is going to be a high-stakes call between the two. President Biden has really been ramping up his criticism of Israel in recent days. He is saying he is outraged over the deaths of these aid workers. He is saying part of the reason the humanitarian crisis in Gaza is so dire is because Israel is making the situation so unsafe for humanitarians, not just these World Central Kitchen workers, Hallie. Around 200 aid workers, the vast majority of them Palestinians, have been killed in Gaza since the start of the war. It is important to note, though, Hallie, for all this rhetorical conflict between the Biden administration and the Israeli government, the White House is not shifting gears on the key issue of policy. It is continuing to supply weapons to Israel.
That's an important point, Raf. You've also got this investigation now that the Israeli military is conducting, in essence, on its own strike. What is the expectation for what could come out of that?
So this investigation, as you say, is being carried out by the Israeli military. It's a body called the Fact-Finding and Assessment Mechanism. It's the body that looked into other major mistakes by the Israeli military. For example, the killing of those 3 hostages by Israeli forces as they were trying to wave a white flag, hoping to be rescued by Israeli troops. The head of the Israeli military saying overnight that this was a case of misidentification, that Israeli forces mistook this aid convoy for something that could threaten them. But, Hallie, the big unanswered question right now is how is it that Israel carried out not just 1, but at least 3 strikes on this aid convoy over a 1.5-mile stretch of the coastal road in Gaza, when World Central Kitchen says it contacted Israel ahead of time and it told them exactly where these vehicles were going to be. Hallie.
Raf Sanchez live for us in Tel Aviv. Raf, thank you for being there. Also overseas, we're hearing tonight the U.S. warned Russia ISIS extremists could target Crocus City Hall in Moscow 2 weeks before the terror attack there that killed more than 140 people. This is according to 2 U.S. officials with knowledge of the matter. I know you remember what happened here a couple weeks ago when attackers opened fire at this concert hall, set fire to the building. A branch of ISIS has claimed responsibility. I want to bring in our Dan DeLuce with more. Russian state media says that Russian officials deny these claims, that they got a warning about this preemptively here. What do we know about that, and how unusual it might be for the U.S. to give Russia a warning like this?
You know, Hallie, it's more common than you might think, and there's even a name for it. It's called duty to warn, and it's actually now enshrined in a directive in the intelligence community, and that is that the U.S. intelligence agencies believe they have a duty to warn other governments, even adversaries like Russia, if they have information that indicates there's some major violent, potentially lethal attack in the offing, as long as it doesn't jeopardize U.S. interests or U.S. personnel to share that intel. But unfortunately, what's happened in the past, it's also not uncommon for some adversaries to dismiss the intel, to distrust the U.S. Sharing that information. And this is what's happened in this case. It didn't seem to really have an effect and gain traction in Moscow. They didn't seem to really take it seriously and protect that concert venue where that awful, awful attack took place.
Dan DeLuce live for us on that. Thank you, Dan. To a victory now for the head of Disney in this very high-profile proxy war. It's like boardroom drama that feels straight out of the show Succession. You had Bob Iger winning enough votes in a board meeting today, big deal board meeting, to beat back this really aggressive challenge against the board of directors. The challenge put in place by the guy you see here, Nelson Peltz. He's this billionaire activist investor. He's been critical of Disney for a whole bunch of things, including losing money, including not having, in his view, a good enough succession plan for CEO. But all of this victory late today, just this afternoon, means that Iger has avoided what would have been a really embarrassing loss. Still, he's under pressure to solve some of the problems he's been facing since 2022, when he came back to Disney, even after his quote-unquote short-lived retirement, replacing his hand-picked successor. Chloe Malas is joining us now. It's good to see you again.
Good
so
to see you too.
Talk us through it, because Nelson Peltz, obviously not successful in trying to infiltrate Disney's board, if you will. But there was a lot of money spent. This was expensive. Talk us through the dynamics at play and where this goes.
So Nelson Peltz, he's this activist investor, and this is not the first time that he has tried to secure board seats, because he has not been happy with how Bob Iger has been running Disney. He feels like the stock is down, viewership is down on the streaming platforms, and that he wanted to put himself and another individual who actually used to work at Disney on that board. Well, obviously not successful. And during this time, both sides spent a total of $70 million on this proxy war. Even Disney putting out this like political ad style video in order to try to convince people that no, we don't want Nelson Peltz. We don't want that. Now, obviously they were successful, and Bob Iger was having all of these closed door meetings, and some of the people that came out and supported him, Star Wars creator George Lucas. You had Jamie Dimon. You also had Lorraine Jobs, the widow of Steve Jobs. You had all these individuals that rallied around Iger, but then you obviously had some people that were supporting Peltz as well, but obviously it didn't just get him, the support wasn't enough to get him those board seats.
But some of the things that Peltz and his allies raise, I mean, they're real challenges for Disney. What's the plan on that front?
Well, first of all, one of the things that Peltz has brought up is that what is the succession plan for Bob Iger? I mean, Bob Iger, he left Disney, he came back to Disney, but he can't run it forever. And he has said, I am leaving Disney at the end of 2026. Nelson Peltz's attitude is, well, what's the plan for a successor? I don't see you having a clear plan. And because of that, stocks have been down. And also, what's the deal with viewership? Disney Plus, the streaming platform, has not been profitable, although Bob Iger has said it will be profitable by the end of 2024. He is bullish on that. Now, also, business analysts have said that Disney's Marvel and Star Wars franchises, that they have lost steam. Nelson Peltz also said, why is Disney leaning so heavily into diversity? Why are there these all-female casts? And he said other very upsetting comments that upset a lot of people. And then obviously ESPN numbers have been down. You know, traditional viewing of television is, you know, on the decline, right? People aren't necessarily sitting on their couch and turning on cable TV, but, you know, all the cord cutting that's been going on. And so that is something else that Peltz has said, look, like, how are you going to, you know, help get people watching streaming? How are you going to raise the numbers here? Yeah. And so this has been, you know, in some respects, some of the things that Peltz has mentioned are understandably concerning for shareholders. Like, what is the succession plan? But now you see in the statement, the board members are clearly breathing a sigh of relief. They said, look, this is a big distraction. We're going to focus on the work, focus on getting our numbers up, our profits up, and that, you know, this has been an unfortunate proxy war that has cost us, you know, tens of millions of dollars. And the other thing I just want to point out, though, is that at one point there were rumblings that Iger, you know, was going to sell ABC News for profit, and, you know, to cut the losses, right, and to help build some profit for himself. And obviously he didn't do that, and he has doubled down and said that ABC News is here to stay.
Yeah, he's walked that back for sure in a story that's just getting so much attention. Chloe Malas, we're glad to have you covering all of it for us. Thank you. Also tonight, we're learning more about an American who died on a safari tour in Zambia with the terrifying moment caught on camera. You're seeing part of it here when an elephant charged toward the truck and flipped it over. Here's Shaq Brewster with more.
Dramatic video showing the moment an African safari turned deadly. A massive African bull elephant is seen in the distance running toward a vehicle full of tourists. Suddenly charging right at the group, eventually flipping over the entire thing with its tusks. The 6 passengers and tour guide inside sent tumbling over. One of those passengers, an 80-year-old American woman, tragically killed, according to the tour company Wilderness. Another guest was taken to a medical facility in South Africa for treatment, as 4 others were treated for minor injuries. The CEO of Wilderness pointing to the terrain and vegetation in a statement, writing the guide's route became blocked and he could not move the vehicle out of harm's way quickly enough. The deadly episode playing out in the Kafue National Park in Zambia. The massive 550,000-acre wildlife reserve is the oldest and second largest safari park in the world, a popular destination for people looking for an encounter with iconic African animals like lions, hippos, and elephants. The Safari Guide Company promises a tour of, quote, one of the wildest, most pristine places on Earth. But journeys into the home of Africa's wild animals can come with risks. While elephant attacks are not common, videos of the animal getting aggressive with tourists have gone viral before. But in Zambia, the tour company says it is cooperating fully with local police and wildlife officials in their investigation, as local authorities work with the U.S. Embassy to get the American woman who lost her life back home.
Shaq is joining us now with more on this just scary story here. What are we hearing from the company that put this trip on?
Well, they're definitely releasing their sorrow and expressing their condolences. And one question I was having as I was researching this story and reporting this story out was, how common is this? And I was surprised to learn that there's actually a term for what we saw in that video, Hallie. It's called elephant-human conflict. It's the focus of entire studies. In fact, India's Ministry of Environment released a report a couple of years ago that estimated about 500 people are killed by elephants every year. They're suggesting there it's usually crop raiding incidents. Of course, this is a different context. It's a different continent that we're talking about, which makes it a little bit more unusual. And it explains the tone that you're hearing from the CEO. In the statement, they say that they are supporting the families and the victims here. They say that trauma counseling has been provided to all involved, and say we are also naturally supporting those guests and the guide involved in this distressing incident. Hallie, it's a heartbreaking video, heartbreaking situation, and really an encounter with that animal that many people call a gentle giant, you see not being the case in this incident.
Shaq Brewster, thank you very much for that reporting. Appreciate it. We got a lot more to get to here on the show, including the Super Bowl champions facing maybe an unexpected loss, why a vote in Missouri could put the future home of the Chiefs up in the air. Plus, a standoff way above Miami. Look at this, how this guy shut off power to a cell phone tower with nobody noticing. Watching the clock on the moon? The new time crunch for NASA ahead in the 5 things. But first, the back-to-back Super Bowl champions The Kansas City Chiefs, with their roster of superstars like Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, guess what? They may be looking for a new city to call home tonight after Kansas City voters rejected a plan to use a sales tax to pay for upgrades and repairs to the Chiefs Stadium. More than half of voters went against this thing. You see it, 58%. It would have fixed up Arrowhead for the Chiefs. It would have paid for a new stadium for the Royals. Both of those venues are more than 50 years old. NBC's Priya Sridhar is following this one for us. Okay, so gut check, right? Yes, the teams will have to go back to the drawing board on their stadiums here. But is it really, really realistic that the Chiefs could end up out of Kansas City? Is that even being discussed?
That's definitely something that people are at least speculating. And of course, the people in Kansas City are fearing that could be the worst case scenario. But just to get a sense of where the Chiefs actually, where their head is at in all of this, they retweeted a statement that the Yes on One people, the people who were supporting this tax measure, originally posted, which says, "We respect the voters of Jackson County and the results of the election today. We are deeply disappointed as we're steadfast in our belief that Jackson County is far better off with the Chiefs and the Royals. We thank all who worked on this election for their time and commitment. We will take some time to process the outcome and reassess our options." So a little bit cryptic there. We don't know exactly what they mean by that. But what's the road ahead, you ask? There's kind of three options on the table right now. One would be to kind of rework and revamp the sales tax measure and introduce it to the voters of Jackson County and Kansas City sometime in the future. But given the fact that, as you mentioned, 58% of voters oppose this, it was a pretty decisive result there. The next kind of option on the table would be to kind of change their approach and look for more private funding to fund the renovation of both Arrowhead Stadium and this new stadium that the Royals are looking to build in downtown Kansas City. The other third one, Hallie, as you mentioned, is to listen to competing offers from different cities and states, perhaps in the region. One of the considerations that's being discussed right now is perhaps moving the Kansas City Chiefs across the state border to Kansas, where they have indicated that they would be more willing potentially to give more public funding for a stadium. So it's really interesting because, as you mentioned, the Kansas City Chiefs are heading into the next season trying to become the first team in NFL history to win 3 back-to-back Super Bowl titles. So despite the fact that they're hugely popular and successful in Kansas City, they were unable to get the sales tax measure across the finish line.
But
Hallie,
explain that piece of it, Priya, right? Like, you know, why was this so unpopular, given that the Chiefs are chiefing? You know what I mean? Like, Taylor Swift's boyfriend, like, beloved, is on the team. Like, what was the beef here for people? Just the money? I mean, just that it was expensive?
Yeah. So that's one part of it. You know, one of the big opposition groups who was really being vocal against the sales tax measure really characterized the debate here as people and taxpayers versus billionaires. But one thing that the Royals and the Chiefs wanted to make very clear was they weren't necessarily looking for a handout. They were also willing to fund both of these stadiums. The Chiefs, in fact, were going to invest $300 million in private money for the $800 million they needed to renovate Arrowhead Stadium. Similarly, the Royals were willing to invest $1 billion from their team's ownership for this new ballpark, which was estimated to cost around $2 billion. Now, both of these teams are currently playing at Truman Sports Complex next door to one another, and that lease is set to expire in January of 2031. So there is a sense of urgency here. The clock is ticking, and so they're really going to need to find a new home sometime soon, Hallie.
No kidding. Priya Sridhar, thank you so much for covering this one for us. Thanks. Let's get you over to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, a man who led attacks on police during the January 6th attack on the Capitol, sentenced to 7 years in prison today. Taylor James Jonatakis defended his actions with arguments related to sovereign citizenship, which means he doesn't think he's accountable to the federal justice system. The judge says he is troubled by Atakis's lack of remorse. Number 2, Amazon ditching its just walk out system in all of its fresh supermarkets in this country. Do you know this? Remember this? It's like you could just take stuff, you put it in your basket or whatever, and then you leave, you get the bill afterwards. Instead, the company is like, we're not doing that. We're going to do dash carts instead. Sensors are still used, so that's still automatic, but you actually get to see how much you're spending in real time. Number 3. The guy you see here in the red shirt, the red top, safely back on the ground after an hours-long standoff on top of this cell phone tower in Miami. Look at that. How did he get there? Well, apparently he climbed up it in the middle of the night after impersonating a T-Mobile worker. He actually shut down the power before climbing up. When police asked him to come down, he told them he wasn't done working yet, but a crisis team did eventually manage to get him out. Number 4, New York City's Transit Authority wants some big bucks to make up for the closure of a big bridge during the annual marathon in the city every year. We're talking $750,000 each year. The New York Times says the MTA is asking marathon organizers to pay up because they lose money in tolls when the bridge is closed. The group says they're willing to negotiate, but so far they haven't agreed to pay the full amount. Number 5, you've heard of PST and EST, right? Pacific Standard Time, Eastern Standard Time. How about Coordinated Lunar Time? The White House is asking NASA to create like a time standard for the moon by the end of 2026. The goal is to really be as precise as possible for missions in the future. Time actually moves a little bit faster on the moon compared to Earth, thanks to differences in gravity. Don't ever say you never learn anything from this show, folks. Coming up, the fight over one single electoral college vote. Why what's happening in Nebraska could swing the presidential election come November. Don't miss this one. Plus, taking a dip in the Chicago River. We'll get into why and where and how in a second. Throwing the book over books. We'll explain the library drama in the local. But first, could one tweet from a Republican activist end up costing President Biden the election? Back up, rewind, it's not that far out there with this new push out of Nebraska, sparked by this post, we're about to show it to you here, by Charlie Kirk, trying to change how the state spreads out electoral votes. He writes, as you see it here, Nebraskans should call their legislatures and their governor to demand their state stop pointlessly giving strength to their political enemies. Here's the deal, right? Most states go all or nothing for presidential elections, right? But Nebraska does not. Maine, they're not winner take all. They give out their 5 electoral votes based on who wins each congressional district. Stay with me. Here is why that matters in heavily Republican Nebraska. See these little 2 blue dots right near Omaha and Lincoln? The one near Omaha, it's trending blue, right? This area went for President Biden back in 2020, even in very red Nebraska. However, a new bill by a Republican in this state wants to change the system. You know who thinks that's a good idea? The state's governor, saying he backs this winner-take-all push. Now, it shouldn't surprise you who else thinks it is a good idea, and that is former President Trump, coming out on his social media platform saying the change would be, in his words, the right thing. Mark Murray is here to explain. Let me just tell people this, right? We're talking 1 electoral vote out of 538. However, there is a scenario in, like, you know, the hypothetical, do the math thing, where the presidential election ends up in a tie. If Nebraska changes its law and changes its electoral vote count, the way that it gives out those systems, a tie is no longer possible, right? Explain that piece of it.
Yeah, Hallie, let me walk you through the math. And so, for example, Joe Biden ended up winning Nebraska's 2nd congressional district by about 7 percentage points in 2020. And the expectation with some of Donald Trump's weaknesses in these urban suburbs that President Biden would have the advantage again in 2024. And when we look in some of the current polling, it ended up might being that Joe Biden's best path to 270 electoral votes and re-election is by winning those Midwest states of Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan. And even if Biden ends up losing the Sunbelt states of Arizona, Georgia, and Nevada, if all that ends up happening, Joe Biden gets it 270 electoral votes and thus re-election and the presidency. But if you take away the 1 electoral vote in that 2nd congressional district in Nebraska, you end up getting to 269 to 269. And that means the outcome of the presidential race goes to the House of Representatives in the U.S. Congress.
Realistically, what are the chances Nebraska actually does this in time for the election? Their state legislature is only in session for another, week, right?
Yeah, Hallie, that's the whole rub here is the timing. And even Republicans who are seeming to, hey, we want to work on this, recognize that there isn't a whole lot of time left in the legislative session. You end up seeing Republican State Senator Tom Brewer saying it's all about the timing. We don't know if we have enough days to be able to do it. Fellow Republicans are echoing that. And then we end up hearing from Democrats who actually say this is all an effort just to kowtow to someone like Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk. And so you are seeing this all play out, and the whole question is timing.
Mark Murray, thank you so much. Good to see you. We'll see what happens on that. I know you'll be on top of it. NBC News covers hundreds of other stories every day. And because it can be tough to read or watch or listen to them all, our bureau teams have done it for you. This is what they tell us is going down in their regions in a segment we call The Local. From our Southern Bureau, people in Oklahoma voted to kick out a local official over his ties to white nationalist groups. This is a follow-up to a story we told you about live here on this show 24 hours ago. Remember? Activists wanted Judd Blevins out after they found out that back in 2017, he marched alongside white supremacists in that Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville. Last year, he was elected as a city council member. That recall election, successful. He's out. A former teacher will replace him. Also out of our Southern Bureau, a mom in Texas says she was trying to renew her driver's license when she found out there's a warrant for her arrest because of overdue library books. She says she didn't get the late notices from the library. She says they were returned like a month late, but a city ordinance says if you don't respond to these kinds of notices within a certain date range, it is a misdemeanor punishable by a fine. The city attorney could not be reached for comment. And out of our Midwest Bureau, the Coast Guard just said yes to an open water swim in the Chicago River this September. It's going to be the first one there in more than a century. Like, listen, the water doesn't, that's nice. Maybe it's clean. Maybe it's lovely. Organizers are going to track the water quality. 500 people are expected to jump in the Chicago River. Would you? Food for thought. Coming up, the LSU women's hoops team called out by the Louisiana governor. Why he says something they did before that showdown with Iowa should cost them scholarships in a controversy that is rocketing for women's basketball. That's next. All right, what are the stars from that record-breaking LSU-Iowa women's basketball college game? Is heading to the WNBA with Angel Reese announcing in the last couple hours, yep, she's doing the draft.
I'm leaving college with everything I ever wanted. It's democracy. A degree, a national championship, and this platform I could have never imagined.
Amazing for Angel Reese. That's the Instagram video from that projected first-round pick. You know she's going to go early. You know she is a hot commodity given how well she has played this season, even as her soon-to-be former controversial coach is caught in this kind of culture war clash. Kim Mulkey, you recognize her? There she is. She's taken heat from Louisiana's governor, who says maybe scholarships should be pulled from athletes who aren't there for the national anthem, who aren't present for the anthem. Where'd this come from? Well, look at this. Before the game against Iowa that you probably watched, a record 12 million people did, after all, no big deal, Mulkey's players were not on the court. Mulkey responding to the question from a right-wing outlet saying it's just their routine. Listen.
Honestly, I don't even know when the anthem was played. We kind of have a routine where we are on the floor and then they come off at the 12-minute mark. Listen, that's nothing intentionally done.
Guad Venegas is joining us now. So, Guad, let's just be clear for folks who, maybe don't know Kim Mulkey. It is perhaps not as though she is a liberal culture war warrior here, right? So what is behind this push, this fight that the Louisiana governor seems to be picking against the state's super popular women's team?
Correct. In fact, she's been controversial for exactly the opposite, very conservative things. So I think there's a lot of context to understand of what happened here. So the first thing we need to keep in mind is that she made reference to the routine that they have. So this is the first time that the team is in the locker room during the national anthem. This is something they've done in the past. It's part of the routine. It's what they do. They go in the locker and they have that time to prepare. Now, during that time, the national anthem takes place on the court. Now, when it comes to Mulkey, there's a lot of things that she's been controversial for again. So years ago, she was under a lot of heat when she defended Baylor. She used to coach the basketball team at Baylor, and she defended the school after sexual allegations arose. Eventually, that led to the resignation of the president and other members of the staff. She did apologize for that. She was also under a lot of controversy after players that had played for her said they had been treated differently for being lesbian, indicating that they felt like they had to hide that. She did say that she never treated a player any different for those reasons. Then there was the pandemic stuff. She was against COVID testing during the Final Four during the pandemic, indicating that teams could be losing a player if that player tested positive. And then, of course, there was the delayed defense of Brittany Griner when she was detained in Russia after being detained for 10 months. Even the U.S. government said Griner had been wrongfully detained, and Mulkey said she did not want to speak about that, so she was too late to speak on behalf of Griner, even after the U.S. government had done so. But for this incident, I do think it's important to keep in mind that there isn't anything that appears to indicate that the team or she asked them to leave the court because the national anthem was played. So when we see a lot of the headlines that say the team walked off during the national anthem, we should keep in mind that they followed the routine that they normally follow before a game.
Talk about sort of that routine, right? Because the pros have their own sort of way of playing the anthem, different in college.
Correct. So it's very common for us to see the pros standing during the national anthems in various sports. That is not the case in the NCAA. With college sports, it is not uncommon to see the teams go into the locker and prepare for the game during the national anthem. In fact, there has been a statement shared by Associate Athletics Director at LSU that says our basketball programs have not been on the court for the anthem for the last several seasons. Usually the anthem is played 12 minutes before the game when the team is in the locker room doing final preparations. Now, we should also say, Hallie, that other teams during the NCAA tournament, in fact, during that Elite Eight, they weren't on the court during the national anthem, and they are not being criticized right now, of course, because there wasn't a video that went online that showed this, right?
Guad Venegas, super interesting. Lots to follow on that as we're looking ahead to more, obviously, the women's games, the championship coming up not too long from now. Guad, thank you. We are coming on the air with the search for survivors right now in Taiwan. The strongest earthquake in decades there, killing at least 9 people, hurting many more. And as we speak, dozens are stuck in this mine, trapped because of all the damage. We're live with reaction from people who saw this happen, this earthquake go down themselves. We're also live in Kentucky, where thousands of people are in the dark after tornadoes, as we're just now learning about how really intense winds created so much turbulence for a Southwest flight. 2 people ended up in the hospital after an emergency landing. More details on that just ahead. We'll also show you the shocking video out of Africa, an elephant charging this bus full of tourists, Americans, killing one of them. The new details we're learning tonight about the victim. Plus, egg producers trying to come up with new plans with an apparent bird flu surge breaking out in Texas. What it means for your next trip to the grocery store. Plus, the Super Bowl champions threatening to leave Kansas City after voters said they wouldn't foot the bill for any new stadiums. What the Chiefs and MLB's Royals say they may do next later on in the show. Hey there, I'm Hallie, and tonight it is a race against time in Taiwan in a desperate search happening there for the dozens of people missing after Taiwan got hit with the biggest earthquake it's felt in 25 years. Come take a look at this closed caption footage. Look at that. That is a building crumbling into this busy street, right? The moment that it happens, you see that cloud of dust going up. Look down here. You see people literally running for their lives out of their cars, coming off their bikes. You've got this building didn't collapse, but look at that angle. It's really leaning. There's a question of how long it's going to be stable at that angle. And during the earthquake, this rooftop swimming pool, literally a waterfall as the earthquake is shaking the ground below. Look at where it hit here. Magnitude 7.4 off the coast. The strongest earthquake the island's had since 1999. Saw it trigger tsunami warnings in Taiwan, Japan, the Philippines. They've all since been lifted, but right now there is still an urgent search and rescue mission with 9 people dead. That number could go up, more than 1,000 people hurt, and 71 people right now trapped in mines, roughly, we think around that number, trapped in mines and quarries because of all the damage that this caused. That's according to officials in Taiwan today. Some Americans there at the time when it all happened, telling NBC News what it was like. In the first moments, they felt the ground shaking. Listen.
I was in bed. I was probably about 15 minutes from getting up to go to work, and suddenly, my whole house started shaking.
I felt a lot of earthquakes, but this was by far the strongest and the most frightening.
Megan Fitzgerald is joining us now. Megan, some of these images, you can see why it looked so frightening. You know, the strength of it really coming across here. What's the status of some of these search and rescue missions going on?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, especially when, as you've shown, you know, you've got the base of a structure that's crumbled, but then it's like leaning to the side. Right now, as you mentioned, it's just an all-out mission to try and rescue the more than 140 people that are trapped beneath the rubble. They've got crews that have come in from around Taiwan trying to work to rescue these people to save their lives. We know that there are rescue dogs that are out here combing through rubble to try and find people. I mean, this was a serious earthquake here that struck, and so crews are also open to the idea of having assistance if they need it come in from around the world. We've seen a global response, the United States, China even. We've seen Japan, along with even Guatemala, the United Kingdom, people reaching out to do whatever they can, if needed, to try and help and save these people. But when you look at the bigger picture of all of this, you know, only 140 people trapped beneath the rubble, 9 people died so far. Of course, any death is too many, but experts we've been speaking with say, look, this certainly could have been a lot worse.
You've also got Taiwan. I mean, we've talked about this, right? How this is an area that is known for earthquakes. They know how to handle earthquakes. It's along that so-called ring of fire in the Pacific, known for the earthquakes, known for volcanoes. Talk about that piece of it, the preparedness in Taiwan for maybe a moment like this, as devastating, obviously, as it is.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the thing. A 7.4 magnitude quake is huge. You'd expect to see more destruction and a much higher death toll. It's a similar situation that we saw in Japan on New Year's Day, you remember. This massive quake, but not the damage that you'd expect to see. The reason is because Taiwan and the region is earthquake prone. They're ready for this. Taiwan's readiness for natural disasters is incredibly advanced. They're prepared. They have strict building codes and routine drills that they conduct. And again, while any number of deaths is too high, experts say this situation could definitely have been much worse. Hallie.
Megan Fitzgerald covering all of it for us tonight. Megan, thank you. Here at home, we're learning 2 people have been taken to a medical facility in Tampa after a Southwest flight headed to Orlando was hit with such severe turbulence, with such bad turbulence, it had to make an emergency landing there. This happened this morning when the area around Tampa was getting slammed with severe weather. It's under tornado watches, or at least it was. The weather system, part of this multi-day deadly storm ripping across the country, putting millions under all kinds of weather alerts, from really intense wind to flooding to snow and hail. Right now, hundreds of thousands of people do not have power, and a tornado watch is in place right around Richmond, Virginia. We're just starting to get a sense of the damage after more than a dozen reported tornadoes ripped through 6 states further west, toppling over trees on top of houses in Georgia, ripping roofs off the houses. Look at that there. I mean, you see right into that, what looks like a bedroom, or what used to be. This is in Louisville, or in Indiana, you're looking at now. We know a 19-year-old died in Kentucky in a crash. You see him here. And a big concern now is the rain and the flooding. Look at this car practically underwater. So now the rain's coming down, and where it's not rain, it is snow. The other side of this, the winter side of this storm, just dumping snow on the Great Lakes in New England. The concern is blizzard conditions in those areas because of the wind. Meteorologist Michelle Grossman is standing by with what to expect, but I want to get to Maggie Vespa, who is live for us in Kentucky, and it breaks your heart to see what's behind you, Maggie. People dealing with destruction, with the devastation from these storms.
Yeah, Hallie, exactly. In fact, I'm going to step away from this a little bit because you can see this building is completely decimated. And as you were talking about, listen to that. The wind and the rain, it really picked up here in Kentucky, as if this region hasn't been through enough. But yeah, this is the kind of destruction that we're seeing across parts of Kentucky. We were in LaGrange earlier, about 20 miles from here, and now we're in a small town called Newcastle. This building completely destroyed. Earlier, we talked to a mom who said that she was watching the storm roll in. Our crew's holding onto their tent just above the camera. This just picked up so much. She was watching the storm roll in yesterday in LaGrange near Louisville. Suddenly, it got really bad. The wind really picked up, and then she realized her 2 middle schoolers were in their 2nd-story bedroom, and it was time to get to safety. I'll let her pick it up from there. Take a listen.
All of a sudden, the wind started picking up, and we went to go look outside, and the rain was kind of going sideways. And I was like, we need to go downstairs. We were just running down the basement, and that's when we heard the pop, and the roof came flying off. We weren't even in the basement yet before that happened.
Hallie, a huge part of their roof, like so many roofs across this area, right, just completely torn off by that tornado, but thankfully they're all okay. As you said, we do know this system was fatal. In one case, a 19-year-old, his mom, posting on Facebook, passing away in a car accident. Governor Andy Beshear today saying that he's praying for that family. But just, going back to the numbers, kind of the scope of this thing, I want to show you some of what we're dealing with nationwide. 14 states hit with tornadoes thanks to this latest severe system, which clearly is not done. And then we talk about power outages, 300 plus without power across the country. Close to 10 states hit with that as well. So this is a nasty system with so many arms, like you pointed out, and clearly it's still got some gas in it, Hallie.
Maggie, we can't. It's not just that we can see the wind blowing around behind you there. We can hear it too. I mean, the conditions are still messy to a degree where you are. And I'm thinking about what happened down in Florida. We just showed that map. Florida, obviously affected by this storm system, and that flight that had to make that emergency landing in Tampa with 2 people transported for medical care. What else do we know?
We just know that it was severe turbulence. This is a Southwest Airlines flight early this morning. It was supposed to go to Orlando and made that emergency stop in Tampa. The crew, the airline, not telling us exactly what kind of turbulence we're talking about. But, we all fly a lot in this job. And for an emergency landing to happen amid severe weather is rare. They're also not telling us what kind of injuries we're talking about. But again, just saying 2 people taken to a medical facility that may very well read as a local hospital. So we're working to learn more. But yeah, another scary moment and just kind of another ramification of this intense monster system. Hallie.
Maggie Vespa live for us there in Kentucky. Maggie, thank you. Meteorologist Michelle Grossman is with us. We were talking about how you can hear that wind in Maggie's live shot, and I'm looking here at the purple, a tornado watch, not yet a warning.
Yes, so we have no warnings right now, which is nice. We just had one about 20 minutes ago in Sussex County, Delaware. That has since expired. Doesn't mean the threat is over, but we are getting better in terms of the severe weather. We still have serious impacts on the horizon the next couple of days from this system. So let's take a look at radar because we still do have a lot going on. Here's that cold front. It's working its way off the coast. And as it does, that's going to shut off the threat for severe weather. But we still have a few hours where we could see isolated storms. And that's why we still have this tornado watch box. But notice since the last hour, if you're with us, it has shrunk considerably, and it's going to continue to shrink as it goes, as the system moves off to the east. So we have another couple of hours before we see this disappear. Now, on the backside, we're looking at that snow falling in the Great Lakes, and of course, that snow expected in portions of northern New England. We could see 1 to 2 feet of snow, blizzard-like conditions, winds gusting up to 65 miles per hour. That's going to bring some power outages and some really cold conditions. But for the severe weather, we still have 10 million at risk over the next couple of hours. Could see winds gusting up to 60 miles per hour. Certainly could see some hail. A few tornadoes are possible, but they will be isolated. And the likeliest spot would be right here in this yellow. So portions of the Delmarva, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia into northern California. In terms of the rainfall, we're looking at heavy, heavy rain, lots of bright colors on the radar. That's where we're seeing that heavy rain falling. And this is falling over very soggy grounds. So we do have flash flood warnings. That's where you're seeing that maroon color, Pittsburgh, Elkins, over to Philadelphia. This means flooding is happening now or it's imminent. That is very serious. A lot of deaths come from flood in terms of weather. So you need flooding in terms of weather. So you need to heed any warnings here. Stay off the roads if you can. 39 million people impacted by these flood watches and flood warnings. And this is why we're looking at a whole lot of rain from central Pennsylvania into portions of Maryland, mid-Atlantic, into portions of the Northeast, and right along Long Island, also portions of Nantucket. Boston could see up to 3 to 4 inches of rain. So we have the rain, we have the threat still for severe storms, and then the wind. Again, you heard that in Maggie's shot. 61 million people impacted. We have lots of power outages already reported. We're going to see that coming, more the number growing as we go throughout the next couple of hours. We could see winds gusting up to 55 miles per hour in some spots. It is cold in a lot of spots, so we're going to see power lines coming down. The grounds are saturated, as I mentioned, so trees are going to come down as well. And I definitely want to mention this because we are talking about the snow. Tomorrow, as we go into, we're going to see snow becoming the big story. We're going to have an April nor'easter, 7 million people impacted. Let's start first in the Great Lakes, where we're not looking at that nor'easter, but still lots of snow. We've had lots of snow over the past couple of days, Marquette, the UP in Michigan. And then we are looking into New England, the interior parts of New England, where you're seeing the pink here. That is a winter storm warning. We have a blizzard warning in the UP in Michigan. Michigan, and we're going to have blizzard-like conditions in northern Maine and northern parts of New England, where we could see up to 2 feet of snow in April. So a huge spring snow, but also lots of snow throughout the interior parts of the Northeast. Upstate New York, you're looking at anywhere from 3 to 5 and 9, 12 inches of snow, but again, could see up to 2 feet. This is what we're looking at as we go throughout the night. We're seeing this storm system kind of coming together, joining forces to bring that snow, bring in that colder air, and that's why we're going to see that really heavy, wet snow. It's a dangerous snow if you're shoveling. Also, we'll bring down some power lines, also some branches, so we're going to watch that very closely. And then as we go throughout tomorrow, it kind of moves slowly, kind of continues to work together. So you see these snow showers kind of circulating around the Great Lakes into the Mid-Atlantic, snow continuing to blast into northern New England. So that's going to be the biggest story as we go throughout Thursday. And then as we get towards Friday, we're looking at snow showers lingering off the Great Lakes. So this is a multi-day event. We've been tracking this for days, and we're going to continue to track this over the next couple of days. But then the big story becomes the snow and also the really chilly weather.
Well, it's hard for folks who you feel like can't catch a break with so much severe weather in such a short period of time.
That storm fatigue.
Yes, totally. Michelle Grossman, thank you so much. It's great to see you. Appreciate it. We've got other news tonight, too, including from out of Texas, where the controversial immigration law there, that one we've been talking about for weeks, it is now in the hands of a federal appeals court. After the latest hearing over the law sets up what is probably going to be a full circle moment, and honestly, probably a showdown up at the Supreme Court. Just to refresh your memory, boom, this is the timeline, right? Full circle because of how we got here. It was blocked, then it was allowed, blocked, allowed, appealed, etc., bringing us right up to where we are now today. Remember, the question, is it constitutional? Is Texas allowed to use state power to detain and in some instances even deport undocumented migrants? The Biden administration says absolutely not. They say there's 150 years of precedent that immigration is the federal government's job, not the state government's job. Remember, that's what it comes down to here. State versus federal power. Who gets the say when it comes to immigration? NBC's Ken Delanian is following this one for us. Okay, Ken, talk us through it, right? Timeline-wise, feels like it's going to the Supreme Court. Help us read some of those tea leaves on how this might go.
Well, absolutely, Hallie. Whatever happens with this Fifth Circuit Appeals Court, it's going to be appealed to the Supreme Court. What we heard today during oral arguments was a lot of skepticism from 2 of the 3 judges about whether this is constitutional. And you even heard the lawyer for Texas at one point saying maybe the legislature went too far. That's what this court is going to have to decide. At another point, he seemed to rewrite the terms of the law when he said, actually, we're not going to deport migrants on our own. We're going to turn them over to Customs and Border Protection at ports of entry. That's the first time anyone had heard that. Lawyer for the Biden administration was flabbergasted. So it does appear that we're heading in a direction where the Fifth Circuit rules that this law is unconstitutional, and then it goes to the Supreme Court, where they have another crack at a decision they rendered back in 2012 in that infamous Show Me Your Papers law in Arizona, where they ruled that unconstitutional and said that immigration is a federal responsibility, Hallie.
There was one moment today where the Texas Solicitor General, who's obviously arguing this case on behalf of the state, seemed to perhaps acknowledge that there was an overstepping here in the state law. Listen.
What Texas has done here is they have looked at the Supreme Court's precedent, and they have tried to develop a statute that goes up to the line of Supreme Court precedent, but allows Texas to protect the border. Now, to be fair, maybe Texas went too far, and that's the question this court's going to have to decide.
What's the logic in saying, like, hey, maybe we went too far when you're trying to make your case in front of a judge?
He gets points for intellectual honesty there. Look, the logistics of enforcing this law have shown to be very problematic because Mexico, for example, has said, we will not take migrants deported by state officials. And so he sort of had to acknowledge that reality. They're looking to hold on to, essentially at this point, slivers, maybe part of the law, Hallie.
Ken Delanian, thank you so much. Appreciate you following all of these ins and outs on this one. U.S. officials telling NBC News tonight President Biden is expected to speak with the Israeli Prime Minister tomorrow. This is a potentially big deal because it will be their first call since the Israeli airstrike that killed 7 humanitarian aid workers in Gaza, workers for the World Central Kitchen. You see the logo here, run by celebrity chef Jose Andres. Now, World Central Kitchen is revealing some new details about what happened 2 days before the deadly attack. The nonprofit says they believe an Israeli sniper opened fire on one of their trucks in central Gaza Saturday. Remember, 48 hours before that strike that killed 7 of its workers. All of it raising some new questions about what exactly the Israeli military is doing to take precautions to make sure workers and civilians in Gaza stay safe. An IDF spokesperson, a spokesperson for the Israeli military, says they've opened an investigation into the attack Monday that killed those workers, calling the airstrike a mistake.
It is a very complex situation and a complex reality on the ground, and we need to make sure that the humanitarian organizations can operate in safety while we make sure that Hamas does not commandeer goods. This is the reality that we are facing.
Raf Sanchez is joining us now, live now from Tel Aviv. So, Raf, can we start by looking ahead to this phone call tomorrow between the president and the prime minister of Israel? Significant anytime the two have a conversation, but at this moment, it feels like there is a lot riding on this conversation, and specifically its tone and its message from the U.S.
Absolutely, Hallie. The last time President Biden spoke to Israeli Prime Minister, March 18th, and a lot has happened since then. The killing of these 7 World Central Kitchen aid workers, including an American citizen, 33-year-old Jacob Flickinger. Also, since that last call between the two leaders, the U.S. allowing that UN Security Council resolution to pass, calling for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. It also called for the immediate and unconditional release of the hostages. But the Israelis absolutely furious that this resolution did not explicitly link the two of them. So this is going to be a high-stakes call between the two. President Biden has really been ramping up his criticism of Israel in recent days. He is saying he is outraged over the deaths of these aid workers. He is saying part of the reason the humanitarian crisis in Gaza is so dire is because Israel is making the situation so unsafe for humanitarians, not just these World Central Kitchen workers, Hallie. Around 200 aid workers, the vast majority of them Palestinians, have been killed in Gaza since the start of the war. It is important to note, though, Hallie, for all this rhetorical conflict between the Biden administration and the Israeli government, the White House is not shifting gears on the key issue of policy. It is continuing to supply weapons to Israel.
That's an important point, Raf. You've also got this investigation now that the Israeli military is conducting, in essence, on its own strike. What is the expectation for what could come out of that?
So this investigation, as you say, is being carried out by the Israeli military. It's a body called the Fact-Finding and Assessment Mechanism. It's the body that looked into other major mistakes by the Israeli military. For example, the killing of those 3 hostages by Israeli forces as they were trying to wave a white flag, hoping to be rescued by Israeli troops. The head of the Israeli military saying overnight that this was a case of misidentification, that Israeli forces mistook this aid convoy for something that could threaten them. But, Hallie, the big unanswered question right now is how is it that Israel carried out not just 1, but at least 3 strikes on this aid convoy over a 1.5-mile stretch of the coastal road in Gaza, when World Central Kitchen says it contacted Israel ahead of time and it told them exactly where these vehicles were going to be. Hallie.
Raf Sanchez live for us in Tel Aviv. Raf, thank you for being there. To some news back here at home, some boardroom drama that seems straight out of the show Succession. To a degree, with the head of Disney winning this big, important board vote to try to beat back an aggressive challenge to his authority, to his leadership here. A challenge waged by this guy, Nelson Peltz, this billionaire activist investor. He's been critical of Disney for a bunch of things, including losing money and not having, in his view, a good enough CEO succession plan. Well, Iger's walking out of that critical board meeting late today with a win. A loss would have been pretty embarrassing, but regardless, he's still under pressure to solve some of the problems he's been facing since 2022, when he came back to Disney to replace his handpicked successor. Chloe Malas is joining us now. It's good to see you again.
Good to see you too.
Talk us through it, because Nelson Peltz, obviously not successful in trying to infiltrate Disney's board, if you will. But there was a lot of money spent. This was expensive. Talk us through the dynamics at play and where this goes.
So Nelson Peltz, he's this activist investor, and this is not the first time that he has tried to secure board seats, because he has not been happy with how Bob Iger has been running Disney. He feels like the stock is down, viewership is down on the streaming platforms, and that he wanted to put himself and another individual who actually used to work at Disney on that board. Well, obviously not successful. And during this time, both sides spent a total of $70 million on this proxy war. Even Disney putting out this like political ad-style video in order to like try to convince people that like, no, we don't want Nelson Peltz. We don't want that. Now, obviously they were successful, and Bob Iger was having all of these like closed-door meetings, and some of the people that came out and like supported him, Star Wars creator George Lucas. You had Jamie Dimon. You also had Lorraine Jobs, the widow of Steve Jobs. You had all these individuals that rallied around Iger, but then you obviously had some people that were supporting Peltz as well, but obviously it didn't just get him, the support wasn't enough to get him those board seats.
But some of the things that Peltz and his allies raised, I mean, they're real challenges for Disney. What's the plan on that front?
Well, first of all, you know, one of the things that Peltz has brought up is that what is the succession plan for Bob Iger? I mean, Bob Iger, he left Disney, he came back to Disney, but he can't run it forever. And he has said, I am leaving Disney at the end of 2026. Nelson Peltz's attitude is, well, what's the plan for a successor? I don't see you having a clear plan. And because of that, stocks have been down. And also, what's the deal with viewership? Disney Plus, the streaming platform, has not been profitable. Although Bob Iger has said it will be profitable by the end of 2024. He is bullish on that. Now, also, business analysts have said that Disney's Marvel and Star Wars franchises, that they have lost steam. Nelson Peltz also said, why is Disney leaning so heavily into diversity? Why are there these all-female casts? And he said other very upsetting comments that upset a lot of people. And then obviously, ESPN numbers have been down. You know, traditional viewing of television is, you know, on the decline, right? People aren't necessarily sitting on their couch and turning on cable TV. But, you know, all the cord cutting that's been going on. And so that is something else that Peltz has said, look, like, how are you going to, you know, help get people watching streaming? How are you going to raise the numbers here? And so this has been, you know, in some respects, some of the things that Peltz has mentioned are understandably concerning for shareholders. Like, what is the succession plan? But now you see in the statement, the board members are clearly breathing a sigh of relief. They said, look, this is a big distraction. We're going to focus on the work, focus on getting our numbers up, our profits up, and that, you know, this has been an unfortunate proxy war that has cost us, you know, tens of millions of dollars. And the other thing I just want to point out, though, is that at one point there were rumblings that Iger, you know, was going to sell ABC News for profit and, you know, to cut the losses, right, and to help build some profit for himself. And obviously he didn't do that, and he has doubled down and said that ABC News is here to stay.
Yeah, he's walked that back for sure in a story that's just getting so much attention. Chloe Malas, we're glad to have you covering all of it for us. Thank you. Also tonight, we're learning more about an American who died while on a safari tour in Zambia. With the terrifying moment, you see part of it here, caught on camera, an elephant charging toward the truck, flipping it over. Shaquille Brewster has more.
Dramatic video showing the moment an African safari turned deadly. A massive African bull elephant is seen in the distance running toward a vehicle full of tourists. Suddenly charging right at the group, eventually flipping over the entire thing with its tusks. The 6 passengers and tour guide inside sent tumbling over. One of those passengers, an 80-year-old American woman, tragically killed, according to the tour company Wilderness. Another guest was taken to a medical facility in South Africa for treatment, as 4 others were treated for minor injuries. The CEO of Wilderness pointing to the terrain and vegetation in a statement, writing the guide's route became blocked and he could not move the vehicle out of harm's way quickly enough. The deadly episode playing out in the Kafue National Park in Zambia. The massive 550,000-acre wildlife reserve is the oldest and second largest safari park in the world, a popular destination for people looking for an encounter with iconic African animals like lions, hippos, and elephants. The safari guide company promises a tour of, quote, one of the wildest, most pristine places on earth. But journeys into the home of Africa's wild animals can come with risks. While elephant attacks are not common, videos of the animal getting aggressive with tourists have gone viral before. But in Zambia, the tour company says it is cooperating fully with local police and wildlife officials in their investigation, as local authorities work with the U.S. Embassy to get the American woman who lost her life back home.
Shaq is joining us now with more on this just scary story here. What are we hearing from the company that put this trip on?
Well, they're definitely releasing their sorrow and expressing their condolences. And one question I was having as I was researching this story and reporting this story out was, how common is this? And I was surprised to learn that there's actually a term for what we saw in that video, Hallie. It's called elephant-human conflict. It's the focus of entire studies. In fact, India's Ministry of Environment released a report a couple of years ago that estimated about 500 people are killed by elephants every year. They're suggesting there it's usually crop raiding incidents. Of course, this is a different context. It's a different continent that we're talking about, which makes it a little bit more unusual. And it explains the tone that you're hearing from the CEO. In the statement, they say that they are supporting the families and the victims here. They say that trauma counseling has been provided to all involved, and say we are also naturally supporting those guests and the guide involved in this distressing incident. Hallie, it's a heartbreaking video, heartbreaking situation, and really an encounter with that animal that many people call a gentle giant. You see, not being the case in this incident.
Shaq Brewster, thank you very much for that reporting. Appreciate it. Coming up, some of the brand new details we're just getting about a cyber attack at a really big hotel chain. We've got that in a second. Plus, the end of an era for this moonshine cave in a place you may not expect. The back-to-back Super Bowl champions, the Kansas City Chiefs, with their roster of superstars like Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, well, they may be looking for a new city to call home. That's after Kansas City voters rejected a plan to use a sales tax to pay for upgrades to the stadium, fixes to the stadium. More than half of voters went against this plan that would fix up Arrowhead for the Chiefs and pay for a new stadium for the Royals. Both of those arenas are more than 50 years old. NBC's Priya Sridhar is following this one for us. Gut check, right? Yes, the teams will have to go back to the drawing board on their stadiums here. But is it really, really realistic that the Chiefs could end up out of Kansas City? Is that even being discussed?
That's definitely something that people are at least speculating. And of course, the people in Kansas City are fearing that could be the worst case scenario. But just to get a sense of where the Chiefs actually, where their head is at in all of this, they retweeted a statement that the Yes on One people, the people who were supporting this tax measure, originally posted, which says, "We respect the voters of Jackson County and the results of the election today. We are deeply disappointed as we're steadfast in our belief that Jackson County is far better off with the Chiefs and the Royals. We thank all who worked on this election for their time and commitment. We will take some time to process the outcome and reassess our options." So a little bit cryptic there. We don't know exactly what they mean by that. But what's the road ahead, you ask? There's kind of three options on the table right now. One would be to kind of rework and revamp the sales tax measure and introduce it to the voters of Jackson County and Kansas City sometime in the future. But given the fact that, as you mentioned, 58% of voters oppose this, it was a pretty decisive result there. The next kind of option on the table would be to kind of change their approach and look for more private funding to fund the renovation of both Arrowhead Stadium and this new stadium that the Royals are looking to build in downtown Kansas City. The other third one, Hallie, as you mentioned, is to listen to competing offers from different cities and states, perhaps in the region. One of the considerations that's being discussed right now is perhaps moving the Kansas City Chiefs across the state border to Kansas, where they have indicated that they would be more willing potentially to give more public funding for a stadium. So it's really interesting because, as you mentioned, the Kansas City Chiefs are heading into the next season trying to become the first team in NFL history to win 3 back-to-back Super Bowl titles. So despite the fact that they're hugely popular and successful in Kansas City, they were unable to get the sales tax measure across the finish line.
But
Hallie,
explain that piece of it, Priya, right? Like, you know, why was this so unpopular, given that the Chiefs are chiefing? You know what I mean? Like, Taylor Swift's boyfriend, like, beloved, is on the team. Like, what was the beef here for people? Just the money? I mean, just that it was expensive?
Yeah. So that's one part of it. You know, one of the big opposition groups who was really being vocal against the sales tax measure really characterized the debate here as people and taxpayers versus billionaires. But one thing that the Royals and the Chiefs wanted to make very clear was they weren't necessarily looking for a handout. They were also willing to fund both of these stadiums. The Chiefs, in fact, were going to invest $300 million in private money for the $800 million they needed
needed to renovate Arrowhead Stadium. Similarly, the Royals were willing to invest $1 billion from their team's ownership for this new ballpark, which was estimated to cost around $2 billion. Now, both of these teams are currently playing at Truman Sports Complex next door to one another, and that lease is set to expire in January of 2031. So there is a sense of urgency here. The clock is ticking, and so they're really going to need to find a new home sometime soon, Hallie.
No kidding. Priya Shruther, thank you so much for covering this one for us. Thanks. Let's get you over to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, speaking of Kansas City, Chiefs wide receiver Rashee Rice apologizing today, saying he takes full responsibility for his actions that led to that high-speed crash in Dallas this weekend, involving an accident involving 2 fancy sports cars sparked this chain reaction crash. 2 people were taken to the hospital. Police believe Rice was driving one of those cars, the sports cars. Rice met with police today, says he will continue to cooperate. Number 2, the first person to receive a genetically modified kidney from a pig is now out of the hospital. You might remember we talked about this story here on the show. We've been following it. It's been 2 weeks just about since Rick Slayman's remarkable transplant surgery at Mass General. He will continue his recovery at home, with Slayman saying that today marks a new beginning, not just for him, but for the other patients waiting for a kidney transplant. Number 3, some customers of Uber Eats may get your orders soon from self-driving cars, at least if you live in one of 4 Arizona cities. That's where the partnership with Waymo is rolling out. Only some restaurants are part of it right now. Uber says there's a fee involved, but you don't have to tip. Number 4, Omni Hotels and Resorts in the last hour says it's been dealing with a cyber attack since Friday. We're just learning about this late tonight. The company was forced to shut down its systems. Most of them have been restored. Omni has launched an investigation. The company isn't saying if any data or customer information was compromised. Omni operates 50 hotels and resorts on the continent here in North America. Number 5, crews are now sealing up that apparent illegal moonshine cave we told you about at a North Carolina speedway. Remember the 700 square foot empty space? Found a couple weeks ago during an inspection. The moonshine operation had been rumored for a while, but no evidence of the moonshine itself was found in the cave, which is now getting, as you see, filled with, I guess, concrete. Coming up, the brand new plan in Thailand to rein in monkeys running in the streets of one of its biggest cities. Plus, what the bird flu could mean for your breakfast. So could one tweet from a Republican activist end up costing President Biden the election? That is maybe not that far out there with this new push out of Nebraska. Let me walk you through it here. It's sparked by this post by Charlie Kirk trying to change how the state spreads out electoral votes. Keep in mind, you need to know this, Nebraska isn't like most states. Most states, whoever wins the states gets the electoral votes. Nebraska and Maine, not so much. They give out their electoral votes based on who wins each congressional district. That matters in a state like Nebraska, very heavily Republican. Red, 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 except for these little dots of blue. This dot of blue right near Omaha, right, went for President Biden in 2020, so he picked up that vote. A new bill by a Republican in Nebraska wants to change that, right, and make it winner take all. Where do you think it's likely to go? You saw all that red, maybe Republican. You know who thinks this is a good idea? The state's governor, saying he backs this push. And you know who else thinks it's a good idea? Perhaps unsurprisingly, former President Trump, saying on a social media platform that a change would be, in his words, the right thing. Mark Murray is here to explain. Explain this, right? Because there is this hypothetical scenario where you end up with a 269 to 269 electoral college vote tie, which is like the bananas thing that political experts like you think about and go, you know, like, what? Like, how do we even get there? This Nebraska district would be central to that.
It's absolutely central, Hallie. And of course, you know, this whole system actually dates back to 1991 when Nebraska actually put it into effect. And there have been previous efforts to actually end up changing this, going back to even to 1995, and with the current effort right now. And Hallie, it's also worth noting that this congressional district has kind of been a bellwether of sorts, at least in the Trump era. In 2016, Hillary Clinton narrowly lost it, but in 2020, Joe Biden won it by about 7 percentage points. And the current thinking is, with the demographic and geographical realignments in our politics, that Joe Biden might end up being the favorite here in 2024.
Okay, you've got Nebraska, sea of red, one blue dot. On the flip side, we showed people Maine, sea of blue, one red dot, right? Is there any discussion, is there any momentum behind potentially changing up the rules in Maine to try to even this out?
Well, that all comes if, Nebraska, in fact, ends up changing things. And right now, their legislature is running out of days to be able to do it in their legislative section. But if it does end up occurring, yes, the counteraction would end up being that the Democratic legislature in Maine would end up moving and changing their system where Donald Trump has been winning the Maine 2nd Congressional District. And, that if Democrats are able to change that back, then maybe you get away from that 269 tie.
Mark Murray, thank you very much for that breakdown for us tonight. Lots to watch. Appreciate it. Tonight, egg prices are going up after a surge in bird flu, with the country's biggest egg producer shutting down production temporarily at one of the Texas facilities where this virus was found, with other producers all across the country racing to stop this from spreading. Nearly 2 million chickens were destroyed after the infection at Cal-Maine's Texas plant. Officials say they also found bird flu at a poultry plant in Michigan. Remember, earlier this week, somebody in Texas got the bird flu from a cow. Morgan Chesky has more.
Yeah, Hallie, these new cases of avian flu are troubling, but particularly the fact that you're talking about avian flu not just in birds and poultry, but also avian flu in livestock, and now, as of recently, humans. Health officials confirming that this patient was in Texas, worked at a dairy farm, and contracted the virus. However, they were quick to also say that they did not require hospitalization. They're currently recovering at home, and the only symptom that this human patient described was conjunctivitis, or what you and I would call pink eye. Now, in the meantime, we are here at a poultry farm in East Texas, outside of the town of Como-Picton. I had a chance to speak to the owner here, and they have 14,000 chickens scattered across this property. The wild aspect of all of this, Hallie, is that even though they have security measures in place that are stringent, if one bird becomes infected, by the time they realize that that infection's taken hold, the whole flock has to be killed.
We won't take any chances spreading to other birds, so we have to destroy the whole. And that's one of the sad part about it. Not that much concern, but, it can spread anywhere.
Now, some of the other security measures in place on a state level, the owner tells me that if any farm within a 3-mile radius of here has a positive case, that requires everyone to have their birds tested. He believes that they'll be okay, but he understands there's some of this that's out of his hands. Any wild bird that flies overhead infected with the virus, if it drops fecal matter here into this lot where the birds can roam free, that's unfortunately all it could potentially take. If they have to lose their flock, Hallie, the financial impact really huge here. For one farmer alone, he's looking at a $250,000 loss by the time he's able to get those new birds back up and running to where they're able to produce eggs to supply to grocery stores. Speaking of, as for any potential price hike on eggs, that remains to be seen. But experts say don't be surprised if prices inch a little bit higher as a result of the current impact from these cases elsewhere around the country. Hallie?
Our thanks to Morgan Chesky for that reporting there, obviously from just outside a farm there. NBC News covers hundreds of international stories every day. And because it can be tough to read or watch or listen to them all, our teams around the world have done it for you. Here's a look at what they're watching in a segment we call The Global. Out of Spain, police arresting the former president of its soccer federation today. A dramatic development, of course, in the saga of Luis Rubiales. Remember, he kissed a player on the lips without her consent at the Women's World Cup final. He's accused of sexual assault, which he denies. Today's arrest, though, is for a whole different thing. Police are looking into possible corruption while Rubiales ran the soccer federation. He's expected to face more questioning in the next few days. Out of Thailand, wildlife officials putting out a plan to handle some literal monkey business and round up 2,500 monkeys. There they are. Basically, this one spot is home to thousands of wild monkeys. Tourists, they love them, but the monkeys can go after people. Just last month, a woman dislocated her knee when a monkey tried to get her food. Officials want to put thousands of them in basically big enclosures. Out of South Korea, today a crowd gathering at an amusement park in the rain to say goodbye to a giant panda headed to China. Some of the people, they're upset, very emotional here. This panda was the first giant panda born in South Korea to 2 pandas that came from China. As part of that panda diplomacy we've talked about on the show, it's painful for some folks to say bye to these pandas. Hopefully this will have the panda camp wherever they're going. Still to come, why the governor of Louisiana is threatening to pull scholarships from some of the state's biggest college basketball stars right in the middle of March Madness. All right, one of the stars from that record-breaking LSU-Iowa women's basketball college game is heading to the WNBA with Angel Reese announcing in the last couple hours, yep, she's doing the draft.
I'm leaving college with everything I ever wanted. A degree, a national championship, and this platform I could have never imagined.
Amazing for Angel Reese. That's the Instagram video from that projected first-round pick. You know she's going to go early. You know she is a hot commodity given how well she has played this season, even as her soon-to-be former controversial coach is caught in this kind of culture war clash. Kim Mulkey, you recognize her? There she is. She's taken heat from Louisiana's governor, who says maybe scholarships should be pulled from athletes who aren't there for the national anthem, who aren't present for the anthem. Where'd this come from? Well, look at this. Before the game against Iowa that you probably watched, a record 12 million people did, after all, no big deal, Mulkey's players were not on the court. Mulkey responding to the question from a right-wing outlet saying it's just their routine. Listen.
Honestly, I don't even know when the anthem was played. We kind of have a routine where we are on the floor and then they come off at the 12-minute mark. Listen, that's nothing intentionally done.
Guad Venegas is joining us now. So, Guad, let's just be clear for folks who, maybe don't know Kim Mulkey. It is perhaps not as though she is a liberal culture war warrior here, right? So what is behind this push, this fight that the Louisiana governor seems to be picking against the state's super popular women's team?
Correct. In fact, she's been controversial for exactly the opposite, very conservative things. So I think there's a lot of context to understand of what happened here. So the first thing we need to keep in mind is that she made reference to the routine that they have. So this is the first time that the team is in the locker room during the national anthem. This is something they've done in the past. It's part of the routine. It's what they do. They go in the locker and they have that time to prepare. Now, during that time, the national anthem takes place on the court. Now, when it comes to Mulkey, there's a lot of things that she's been controversial for again. So years ago, she was under a lot of heat when she defended Baylor. She used to coach the basketball team at Baylor, and she defended the school after sexual allegations arose. Eventually, that led to the resignation of the president and other members of the staff. She did apologize for that. She was also under a lot of controversy after players that had played for her said they had been treated differently for being lesbian, indicating that they felt like they had to hide that. She did say that she never treated a player any different for those reasons. Then there was the pandemic stuff. She was against COVID testing during the Final Four during the pandemic, indicating that teams could be losing a player if that player tested positive. And then, of course, there was the delayed defense of Brittany Griner when she was detained in Russia after being detained for 10 months. Even the U.S. government said Griner had been wrongfully detained, and Mulkey said she did not want to speak about that, so she was too late to speak on behalf of Griner, even after the U.S. government had done so. But for this incident, I do think it's important to keep in mind that there isn't anything that appears to indicate that the team or she asked them to leave the court because the national anthem was played. So when we see a lot of the headlines that say the team walked off during the national anthem, we should keep in mind that they followed the routine that they normally follow before a game.
Talk about sort of that routine, right? Because the pros have their own sort of way of playing the anthem, different in college.
Correct. So it's very common for us to see the pros standing during the national anthems in various sports. That is not the case in the NCAA. With college sports, it is not uncommon to see the teams go into the locker and prepare for the game during the national anthem. In fact, there has been a statement shared by Associate Athletics Director at LSU that says our basketball programs have not been on the court for the anthem for the last several seasons. Usually the anthem is played 12 minutes before the game when the team is in the locker room doing final preparations. Now, we should also say, Hallie, that other teams during the NCAA tournament, in fact, during that Elite Eight, they weren't on the court during the national anthem, and they are not being criticized right now, of course, because there wasn't a video that went online that showed this, right?
Guad Venegas, super interesting. Lots to follow on that as we're looking ahead to more, obviously, the women's games, the championship coming up not too long from now. Guad, thank you. That does it for us for this hour. A reminder that starting on Sunday night, I will be beginning a tenure as anchor of Sunday Nightly News. I will see you there on your local NBC News station, 6:30 Eastern, starting this Sunday and every Sunday after that. Looking forward to that. And I'll still see you, of course, right here on NBC News Now. We've got more coverage picking up right now.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.